Hey, what's up guys? Tougie here, back again with what will hopefully be another quick hits edition of Tougie's Take. I say that because we're talking about the 2018 draft, we're talking about the two trades, unfortunately the only two trades that happened, and we're talking about the Ilya Kovalchuk signing, so you can understand how I might get a little bit rambly about this. It's likely to happen. Two things to note, though, before we get into it. Yes, I know this shade of gray really brings out how white and pasty I am. Thanks for noticing. And as far as the style of video, what do you guys think of this? As far as just, the webcam in the corner not really being the main focus. I don't know. It's easier to edit, that's for sure, as opposed to the webcam being the main thing and just putting up the on-screen graphics. What do you think? Does it matter? Who cares? I don't know. Let me know. Let's get down to business. Let's talk about the draft. Now, if you've ever heard me talk about a draft or trades or signings, I don't necessarily like to declare winners. Obviously, it's a time will tell thing with a lot of these instances, with a lot of these picks, most of these picks, and the two trades that went down. But still, I have some teams that I list on paper as winners of the day. And really, you have to start off with Buffalo for getting the best player in the draft. Rasmus Dahlin goes number 1 overall, to the surprise of absolutely nobody. Svechnikov ends up being Carolina's second biggest move of the weekend somehow. We'll get into talking about that later. And then Jesperi Kotkaniemi. No one's really surprised. The rumors were there leading up to the draft. I have to admit, yes, it's funny that it led to a great reaction gif that will never go away. I really should turn off the World Cup. It's Germany-Sweden right now while I'm watching this, and I'm sorry, not to mention the draft just ended. So I'm a little bit distracted, but hey, it's a big game. With Kotkaniemi, again, no real surprise that he ended up here at 3. Is it a stretch for Montreal? Maybe, but he is the number 1 center rated in the draft, and when you trade away a guy who you didn't view as a center, you might want to bring in a center. It's a little bit of a reach, perhaps, but time will tell. If I'm a Habs fan, I'm good with this move for 2 reasons. You saw it coming, and he was the number 1 center rated in the draft. So was that your biggest need? Maybe, maybe not. But it's not a disaster of a pick. Nor is Brady Tkachuk, although obviously that whole scenario right there, and Ottawa now having to turn over their first-round pick to Colorado for next year. God damn it, Colorado, you might get Jack Hughes. You might be a playoff team, and you might get Jack Hughes. So, congratulations there. Brady Tkachuk, I'm intrigued to see what he eventually becomes, whether with the Ottawa Senators or the Quebec Nordiques if they move. But the main knock against him is his lack of speed. I'm really intrigued to see what happens there. From here, though, is when things get fun. Barrett Hayton goes 5th. I believe he was 11th on Bob McKenzie's big board. 5th to Arizona. Now, this is one of those moves that's going to define John Chayka as a general manager, if this pays off, because obviously somehow Phillip Zadina falls to 6th. I understand in a way why they went with Barrett Hayton. Chayka was quoted as saying he believes, Hayton's, the complete package, perfect two-way center, and time will tell. I did, and I do want to mention with Kotkaniemi, the other comparison I was going to make when Germany distracted me, that being that I compare him in a way to Nico Hischier, where Hischier wasn't supposed to go number 1 overall, and he just shot up the draft rankings out of nowhere. Kotkaniemi kind of did the same thing, so that's another reason why I'm not upset about Montreal taking him. Barrett Hayton was a similar player in that way, in terms of, top 10, didn't look like it for a good majority of the time. Top 5, definitely not. Second-rated center in this draft. Is that the player that Arizona should have gone after at the time? We will find out. This draft is going to be so interesting to look at 10 years from now. I can't wait. Hopefully I make it there. But Barrett Hayton at 5 was the first big surprise of the night. And I am really intrigued to see how that works out. I think, like I said, I think it's a great player. You take the second best player, or the second best center, second highest rated center in the draft. It's just, was that the right move at the time? Could they not work out a deal to trade down? Or did John Chayka just believe in him that much? Phillip Zadina goes 6th to Detroit. They obviously have every reason to be pumped about this. And this move alone kind of puts Detroit into that winner's bracket. And there are some follow-up moves as well that I really like. Detroit had a spectacular draft, in my opinion. and Phillip Zadina is a big reason as to why. Vancouver takes Quinn Hughes, which I agree with. I mean, it's tough. Adam Boqvist, who went 8th to Chicago, was pretty much consensus top 5 up until the final few rankings. He fell off a little bit. Certainly didn't fall off like some other players had, but I'm a little bit surprised to see Quinn Hughes be the first, major defenseman outside of Rasmus Dahlin to be selected. But I do agree with the pick, and I think Vancouver just picked up a hell of a defenseman. I mean, Chicago as well with Boqvist. You can't be wrong with that. You can't go wrong with that. You might be wrong with it. In my opinion, though, safe bet. Should be a great player, and that was Chicago's focus in the first round, of course, is, getting some defensive depth, which they desperately need. Then at 9, the New York Rangers take Vitaly Kravtsov. It is a risky move. He did put up 11 points in 16 games in the KHL postseason as a teenager, which is ridiculous. But will that translate to success? We'll find out. But another reach in the first round. We'll see if it pays off. I mean, again, another player who is projected for the teens as far as where he was going to be selected. I'm intrigued to see if that works out with the Rangers. I know a lot of Rangers fans weren't happy with some of the picks. I don't think Kravtsov was, totally off the mark, but it was surprising to see him go ahead of Wahlstrom. Evan Bouchard at 10 to Edmonton, solid pick. And then we get to the New York Islanders, who I still think might be my winner. I think they might be the winners of this draft, just for these 2 picks alone. Like I said, Detroit did very well, but the Islanders getting Wahlstrom and Dobson back-to-back is insanity. That never should have happened. There is no excuse for that to have happened. People done goofed for the Islanders to get these 2 picks. Now, the news came out today during day 2 of the draft that John Tavares is going to talk to some other teams, but I still think, in a way, this might help. I feel like the Islanders certainly have a better chance to keep John Tavares now than they did even a week and a half ago. You talk about the addition of Lou Lamoriello's GM, Barry Trotz has signed on, which I haven't talked about yet. I guess I'll talk about it now. What a signing for the Islanders. Again, I talked about it when the news first came out that he was leaving, that, the Islanders were the only team with the head coaching position open. I thought he'd wait it out, maybe, take over for someone at the beginning of next year if they get fired, or maybe sit out the entire year, sign on next season, maybe even wait for Seattle. No. He goes to the Islanders. That is a huge get for him. That's a huge move for him. That's a huge get for the Islanders. Then you follow up with these draft picks. Really, you have 2 issues right now. Is John Tavares staying? And for the love of God, get that arena deal sorted out, which they have. Now it's just a matter of time. But they're splitting games this year between Brooklyn and Nassau, which is just a disaster. It's rough to be an Islanders fan, but these 2 picks make it a little bit better, admittedly. So, to the Islanders organization, to the Islanders fans, you have every reason to be pumped. 13th, Ty Dellandrea. This was more shocking to me than Barrett Hayton or Vitaly Kravtsov. I don't really have much to say as far as this goes. I'm just intrigued to see how it works out. Time will tell, because there were some very highly rated players still available, obviously. That's going to be an interesting one. Of course, they went ahead and did the whole thing with Jamie Benn and Mike Modano, kind of hyping up the move, really trying to top what Chicago did last year with Taves and Kane, and I think they might have. St. Louis finally completes the Braden Shen trade. It now turns into Laterra, Frost, and Farabee. I still say at the moment St. Louis has the better of that, trade, because they have the best player out of it. But we'll see what Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee can do. Frost had a very good year down in junior, so. And then from there, Denisenko, solid pick, not really surprising. Martin Kaut wasn't surprising. Ty Smith falling to 17 was a little bit surprising. But then back-to-back picks that, there were rumors that Liam Foudy was going to be taken by Columbus, but it's a little bit high, and I'm still surprised by it. And then Jay O'Brien going to Philadelphia. They took a high school player at 19. That is a massive risk. I'm intrigued to see if that works out. Kupari and Merkley, not surprising. Pittsburgh trading up to get Keandre Miller. Actually, the Rangers trading up to get Keandre Miller. My bad. Or, no, they just had to pick anyway. My bad. I read too many things there. It's fine. The Rangers traded up, and it's fine. Keandre Miller, in addition to Kravtsov, Solid move. I'm turning off the TV. I will. I'm sorry. I'm getting distracted. Germany, you better win, damn it. I didn't place a bet, but I might have. Is gambling legal? I'll never tell. Isaac Lundstrom to Anaheim. Really like that move. Minnesota reaches a bit with Phillip Johansen. That's another move where 10 years from now, how well is that going to work out? Dominic Bach to St. Louis. Solid deal. Solid pickup for them. Ottawa, though, in a move nobody saw coming. Jacob Bernard Docker, one of the better names in this draft. We'll see. We will see, especially when we get to the start of the second round and you see what defensemen they passed on. I'm intrigued to see what happens with JBD. Chicago then took a little bit of a risk with Nicholas Bodine. The Rangers take a Lundqvist, which is hilarious. Those 3 picks in a row, though, just kind of head scratchers. Toronto gets Rasmus Sandin, which I'm kind of jealous. That's a really good pickup for them. And then, Joe Veleno. That was the story of the draft. That was, at least in chat on Twitch last night, that was the story of the draft. As once we got to about, really he was ranked 14, so once we got to the mid to low teens mid to high teens in terms of the picks, the story just became, has Joe Veleno been drafted yet? Hell, there was a Twitter account made about it, because memes, why not? Detroit ends up with Veleno thanks to the Thomas Tatar deal, which, if you look at that right now, Veleno, a second and third for Thomas Tatar. That's already looking amazing. As far as why Veleno fell, just people not thinking he's that complete of a package, I guess, in terms of a player. Like, there's just not that high of an upside, but it's a low-risk pick for Detroit, I would say. And, like I said, just as far as the return already for the Tatar trade, it's looking great. So you factor in Zadina and Veleno, great first round for Detroit. And then Alexander Alexiev, Alex, taken with the 31st pick by the Capitals, which, again, was a little bit surprising. But for the most part, I'm good with it. I am good with it. I just realized Cap Friendly doesn't have the rest of the draft listed, so I'm going to have to load up Elite Prospects, the best site on the planet. And I think now is a good time for a filthy segue. It's a good time to mention that today's video is sponsored by SeatGeek. I know, I'm surprised too. But you know SeatGeek, the amazing ticket purchasing app that other more popular YouTubers than me mention all the time? Well, they mention it for good reason. SeatGeek takes the confusion out of buying tickets, putting a 0 to 10 score on each ticket to know whether you're getting a good deal or a bad deal. Green for good, red for bad. Whether it's sporting events or concerts, make SeatGeek your go-to. And hey, say this October you hear that a certain YouTuber is going to a Maine Mariners ECHL game, make sure to use code Tougie at checkout to come say hi to the man himself. Check the link in the description and remember to use code Tougie at checkout for $20 off your first ticket purchase. All right, we're on Elite Prospects, my home away from home. Between Elite Prospects and Cap Friendly, just so much time spent. We get to the start of the second round. Samuelson's a bit of a steal for Buffalo. The fact that you had Samuelson and Dahlin's quite ridiculous. Berggren, I know nothing about. Saron Noel to Florida, good pickup. Jesse Ilonen going to Montreal. That pains me. Jared McIsaac, Detroit, again. Between the Islanders and the Red Wings, you could throw a couple of other teams in there, but between the Islanders, the Red Wings, the Sabres, even Vancouver, you also get Jet Wu, 37th. The Rangers as well, I really like their selections. The Islanders get Bodie Wild. Ryan McLeod falling to 40th to Edmonton was surprising. And to be honest, I like Edmonton's draft as well. If I had to make a top 5, if you go Buffalo, Islanders, Detroit, Canucks, Rangers, Oilers, I don't know. Any of those 6, if you want to argue that they had the top draft, I can't disagree with you. I can't. Bodie Wild falling to 41, that was surprising, but then all throughout the broadcast they're talking about, character issues or whatever. So we'll see what happens with him. Chris Drury's nephew was drafted. A couple of other moves here. Johnny Tyconic falling to 48 was surprising as well. Ottawa, low-key, had a solid draft as well. It's just that there's so much negativity surrounding the Sens right now, and you still don't know what's going to happen with Erik Karlsson, that none of these picks have that much hype behind them. So it's kind of the one downside. Adam Jennings to Philly was a really good pick. Philly had an okay draft too. I don't know if I'd put them in that top level, but a top 10 draft class from the looks of it, I'd probably say so. Akil Thomas to LA was a good pick, but again, not LA's biggest pick or biggest move of the weekend. And from there, I mean, there's a couple of other guys I could comment on, but nothing overly ridiculous. The Bruins' first pick was Axl Anderson. His name is Axl, so how could I not be okay with that? Minnesota might have an amazing steal on their hands with Jack McBain. How he fell to the third round, I don't quite know, but that's a very good pickup for them. Is there anyone else? Skarik, I think, was the first or second rated EU goalie, so for him to fall to the third round wasn't surprising. Obviously, though, with goaltenders, and we talked about this a lot last night, it's common knowledge, they're voodoo. You never quite know who's going to work out, so we'll see. There's probably 2 or 3 All-Stars in this. I mean, there's either 2 or 3 All-Star goaltenders in this draft, or all of them are going to suck. You never know. Lauko went to the Bruins as well. Excited for him. I know 9 points in 42 games, but I try not to fall for highlight reels, but I'm impressed with some of the stuff I had seen from him. And from there, that was pretty much it. Riley Sutter, of course. If you watch the Seattle series, you're familiar. And if you don't watch the Seattle series, you should. Adam Masherin goes to Dallas after re-entering the draft, so I know Panthers fans are pumped about that. What else was there? I know there was at least one more guy that caught my attention. There he is. Ottawa. If you don't think they had a top 5 draft, at the very least, they won the name contest. I thought for sure that Jet Wu was going to have the best name in the draft. Angus Crookshank. You're not topping Angus Crookshank. You're not. That is the best name in the draft, bar none. Amazing, and I love it. But I think that was pretty much it. I mean, again, from here, you can sit there and look up information about these players, but I mean, from the 3rd round on, it's just, okay, we'll see what happens in the future. Alexis Gravel falling to Chicago in the 6th round is an interesting one, just for how highly rated he was at certain points. And there was one more guy, aside from the British dude, Liam Kirk, who was drafted by Arizona, which is a really good pickup for them. Oh, by the way, Carolina's alternates, they're okay. I don't hate them. Arizona, going back to the old school jerseys, though, just amazing. That's who I was looking for. Vieni Vevalainen, finally drafted at 20 years old, a 3 times overager, but finally drafted by Columbus. So a low-risk pickup for them. And with that, might I send my condolences to Shaw Boomhauer, who was not drafted. I am quite upset. But Eric Florchuk, Mr. Irrelevant, congrats on that. So that's pretty much my thoughts on the draft at this point. I mean, like I said, I'm not... If I had the teams I named earlier, if I had to name like a top 5, I mean, you could make arguments for all of those teams. Obviously, the big disappointment, I would say, with the draft happened to be the lack of trades. We had no trades on night 1. We had a trade just before the draft had begun. So, I mean, I guess you can consider that. That being Grubauer and Orpik to Colorado for a 2nd-round pick. For Washington, obviously great to pick up a 2nd-round pick. You free up a ton of cap space, which is nice. Grubauer gives Colorado more goaltending options, which you need with Varlamov not exactly being consistent. So I'm not sure if Bernier's under contract heading into next year, but it's nice to have options for sure. Although I'm shocked the Islanders didn't push harder. Brooks Orpik has already been bought out as well, or at least is in the process of having his contract being bought out. So for Colorado, you pick up Grubauer without having to give up a first, which I think is great. Pretty much what it was is, hey, we'll buy out Orpik if we don't have to give you a 1st-round pick. And Washington gladly accepted that. So that's a solid deal. And then day 2, the blockbuster that just went down about an hour and a half ago, Noah Hannafin and Elias Lindholm, who are both RFAs, heading to Calgary for Dougie Hamilton, Adam Fox, and Michael Furland. For Calgary, I like Hannafin and I like Lindholm. They're familiar with Bill Peters as well, so that's going to help. I mean, it's tough. I'm intrigued to see what happens here. I mean, obviously, it's shocking that they missed the playoffs last year. Islanders fans are laughing all the way to the bank with the Dobson and Wallstrom picks. They give up Adam Fox, and the rumor was, at least what they were saying on the panel, is that there was a risk of him not signing with Calgary. So, made sense to get rid of him. I don't know. So you give up someone who you were worried wasn't going to sign. You do get on paper, granted they're different type of players, but you get an upgrade in the forward position with Lindholm over Furland. But then, Noah Hannafin's a little bit below Dougie Hamilton, just a little bit. what is the deal with Dougie Hamilton? That's what I can't understand. What is it? You know, he was traded from Boston for just, I guess, not fitting in, being kind of a weird guy or something. Like, just, so I still don't understand it. He's been traded twice. I don't get it. And I'm really intrigued. Hopefully, a few years down the road, we understand what it is. Like, is Dougie Hamilton just a weird dude? Is he very introverted and just doesn't kind of get along with people? Is he a bit of an asshole? Like, what is it? I don't get it. But this is now two teams that have traded an amazingly talented defenseman. So, I'm not sure what it is. Overall, for Calgary, I like the moves. I mean, I'm intrigued to see what Hanifin can do and if he can find his offensive touch. I'm intrigued to see what they both signed for as well. And for Carolina, I mean, you get Dougie Hamilton. You still might trade Justin Falk, which you can afford to do. The market on Jeff Skinner closed a little bit today with LA signing either Kovalchuk, which we'll talk about quickly in a second. I mean, you get Dougie Hamilton. Michael Ferland's a great addition to that team as well. And Adam Fox could be an amazing NHL defenseman. Time will tell with that. So for now, jury's out on this trade, although the best player involved went to the Carolina Hurricanes, so maybe you want to give them the early advantage. The last thing to talk about is the Boston Bruins not getting Ilya Kovalchuk. If the click wants to work, boy, this PC is chugging right now. That's okay. We'll talk about Ilya Kovalchuk regardless. Signed for $625, I do believe. There we go. $625 over 3 years, and apparently that was the big thing that he wanted. He wanted that third year. As far as Kovalchuk signing in LA, how good of a fit is he? And they needed goal scoring. It's just how quick, like how well is he going to adapt coming back to the NHL at 35 years old? I mean, LA is going for it. Bottom line, with their aging core, LA is going for it over the next 2 to 3 years. So I'm intrigued to see what else they do this offseason. And again, for Kovalchuk, it just would have been so weird if he had ended up as a Bruin. And like 2007 me just can't comprehend that. Kovalchuk and Rick Nash both being Bruins within a short amount of time. It would have been ridiculous. Thank you for the Trident ad. This video sponsored by Trident. Maybe. I don't know. But it's a pretty big contract. I mean, again, I'm not surprised in a way that it wasn't Boston with that big of a cap hit. I mean, for someone like San Jose, they're all in on John Tavares, and we'll see where he goes. And again, that's really the only thing to say about John Tavares right now is we'll see what happens over the next few days, really over the next week or so, as we head towards the beginning of free agency, which I am pumped about. But one of the big names is already off the market. As far as what could happen moving forward, I mean, you know, you're still looking at the likes of Jeff Skinner, Max Pacioretty potentially being traded. But, yeah, one of the big fish, Ilya Kovalchuk, is off the market. He's going to be an LA King, which is incredibly, incredibly weird. And with that, I think we're done here. I don't really have too much else to say. If I'm forgetting to mention anything, though, let me know down in the comments below. Let me know what you thought, not only of the draft as a whole, how some of the teams that I thought did better in the draft, how'd you feel they did, and your team. How did your team do in the draft? If you're a Bruins fan, you can't really say much because, you know, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. What do you think of the Kovalchuk signing? What do you think of the two trades? I mean, did Calgary get fleeced, as a lot of people are saying? I don't know. I think the early advantage does go to Carolina, but time will tell. And for now, I'm done here so that I can watch the end of Germany-Sweden. So thank you very much for watching. You know what you can do to support the video and support the channel. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, tell your friends, write a letter, email a congressman, throw newspapers at windows, and shake dogs and kiss babies, and just, yeah. I'll see you guys next time.